Good morning, everybody. Sorry, a little bit late. Davening took a little bit more. Baruch Hashem. Here, let's give these out. Today, our learning is sponsored by the dearest person in the world, by Susan Cates, and it's her birthday, and in memory of her, of her dear husband, Dan Mordechai Ben Nachum. So, as you all know, today's a big day. Today's a day of so many different things, of so many different emotions, of different levels of celebration, of introspection, of I don't know. Just every year I feel like you could add a lot, more words to what this day is, because it just keeps on getting bigger and deeper. The day of the passing of the Rebbe, 29 years. Did everyone get? Everyone got? Okay, great. And I obviously the way that that Yidden always mechaven strong to the nekuda of this day is through the Torah of the tzaddik that the tzaddik gave in this lifetime. What's amazing is that it's what I would have liked to discuss if it wasn't like learning, would be about this like leadership and what it would mean to have a Rebbe. What does it mean to have a shepherd? So thank God he does that for us. The Rebbe does that for us throughout Parsha Chukat, because in our Parsha, I want to learn it in the context of the Parsha, because in our Parsha, it's a whole Torah from Rebbe Eger. It's really the beginning of saying goodbye to any form of leadership that we have. Because Miriam passes away, Aaron passes away, Moshe Rabbeinu hits the rock, so we kind of, as a nation, now we know, he's not going to be with us because he's told, Yan lo emantem bi lakdisheni le'nei bnei Yisrael lachem lo taviu et hakal hazeh la'aretz shenati lehem. So it's almost this preparation of saying, well, what do you do in a world when your leaders aren't physically with you anymore? And I don't know if anyone else in this room, probably not in this room, but most of us that have a kesher and iskashrus to the Rebbe, it's not because we spent so much time there and there was dollars or yechidus, or we grew up there, or we were families of shluchim, or we were shluchim. It's more this thing of we're born into this reality of feeling so close to someone that we were never around, and yet we feel so close. And you could even say, man, I miss the Rebbe so much. And it's like saying, well, how do you miss someone that you never had, right? It's a very interesting thing. By the Rebbe, it's so big, this day of ga'aguim, this day of missing, the day of longing. It's such an interesting, seemingly paradox, but it's really not. It's really, really not. So what I want us to see inside is, there's two sides to this page, right? Which one?
Yes.
One second. Okay. If you see the one where it says V'lo haya mayim la'edah on the top of the page? Mm-hmm. So let's meet ourselves in the Parsha right before we start to find out that we're going to be lacking leadership. Is it too cold for everyone in here? You could tune the fan down a little bit. Thank you, Shoshana. This is very it's just a warm hug from the Rebbe. That's what I feel. It's like a warm hug. So the pasuk says, "V'lo haya mayim la'edah." Suddenly Miriam passes away. Does anyone know what day it was? What's the yahrzeit of Miriam, Hanavia? It's interesting. It's a day before the Rebbe's birthday, Yud Nisan. Miriam passes away Yud Nisan. V'lo haya mayim la'edah. Mikan, Rashi says, Shekol 40 shana haya lehem be'er b'zchut Miriam. What do we understand from this? We know that there were 3 miracles that took place to Am Yisrael throughout the desert that they had. We're going to go through all 3 of them. But the one about having water with us, be'er shel Miriam, means that the 40 years that we were in the desert, when we had water, it was all b'zchus Miriam Hanaviyah. She passes away. The pasuk tells us, V'lo haya mayim la'edah. The Rebbe says like this: Parshat Chukat mesupar al histalkutam shel Aaron veMiriam, ve'al totzaot hamiyodiyot shedavar garam acharei mota shel Miriam. Chadla be'era shel Miriam lisapek, that should be lisapek la'am Yisrael mayim. We see that right after Miriam passes away, the immediate result was that there's no more water for Am Yisrael. La'achar yistalkut Aaron, and then when Aaron dies, nistalku ananei kavod, the clouds of glory that were escorting us through the desert, they ceased to be. And then the next pasuk is about Amalek. Umiyad ba Amalek lilachem b'Yisrael. The pasuk says, "Vayishma Knani melech Arad yoshev hanegev." Then Chazal מציינים בהקשר זה, כי ענני הכבוד שהגנו על העם במדבר היה בזכותו של אהרון. So the cloud was the זכות of Aaron. באר המים שנדדה עם בני ישראל בכל נדודיהם הייתה בזכות מרים. Now the third thing, המן, the manna, שסיפק את צורכי העם במשך 40 שנה, ירד בזכותו של משה רבינו. So the three siblings here are providing all sustenance for Am Yisrael throughout the desert. Just think about that for a second. Two brothers and a sister are basically providing all the sustenance for a whole nation while they're in a very vulnerable state of being. So one of the things that just popped into my head was that throughout the Torah, we're always looking for a tikkun regarding sibling rivalry from the first two siblings that one killed the other, right? The first two siblings that exist, one killed the other. From there, we're seeing throughout the whole Torah, it's a family, not just a family, but siblings trying to get along, trying to fix it. And we get a big scare at the end of Baaloscha. We get a big scare that in this family also, the Ben Amrams, it's going to be bad again. And Baruch Hashem, we see when you're in Pnimius Torah, it was exactly the opposite. It was like the deepest love and respect, which was the result of how Miriam even ended up with the tzarat in the first place. And even throwing Aaron into the mix of why he gets punished also for hitting the rock, even though he didn't. There's so much pnimius on this. One of the things I saw is that Aaron HaKohen was basically begging Hashem right before he was about to punish Moshe Rabbeinu. He said, put me in this punishment too. I can't let my brother go down alone. So the siblings here, these three siblings, it's just like an amazing thing of them getting together. Now you think about it, every parent's dream is not just that everything should be good for their children, but that their children should get along. Should be a much louder amen for that one, right? That's like that the siblings should get along. So it's really, these Moshe Rabbeinu, Aaron HaKohen, Miriam and Neviah, they're nachas machines. Yocheved and Ta'amram. And again, in their schus, like whenever we think, I always think about this, like, we're reading these Torahs. Moshe provided the manna. Aaron, the Kohen, provided the ananim. Miriam provided the water. Can you imagine what their parents must have been thinking about them? I don't know if they're alive. I don't think they're alive over here, but what an amazing, amazing moment. What an amazing thing.
Interesting that, I'm sorry. Really
you should be sorry for sharing Torah.
that each one is unique, right? Like we have to recognize that about our children also, that each one has their own special
different
talents and abilities and strengths.
It's good.
And just like, it wasn't like two of them did the same thing.
Right.
Each one, they're very different aspects of the life in the midbar.
That's very important. That's good. That's good. כשנסתלקו אהרון ומרים, נסתלקו עמם גם ענני הכבוד ובאר המים, ומאוחר יותר חזרו ניסים אלה בזכותו של משה. So this is interesting. So what ended up happening, when Aaron and Miriam died, then the Ananei HaKavod and the Be'er of Miriam left them, but then they returned in the schus of Moshe Rabbeinu, who was still alive. One thing we know definitely about Moshe Rabbeinu dying is that when they go into Eretz Yisrael, there is no manna coming down from heaven. But it's an interesting thing over here. Just point and keep this in mind. When the Ananim and the water stopped upon the death of the people that were basically bringing it down, but then it comes back in the schus of Moshe Rabbeinu. Haman, Ananei HaKavod, ube'er hamayim, sipku shlosha tzrachim bsisiyim shel ha'adam. These three elements provided three essential needs, basic needs of a person. Haman hu mazon, shenispag baguf, ונעשה דם מדמו ובשר מבשרו של האדם. What is the manna? It's nutrition. It's food that is basically gets sponged up into the body of a person it becomes our blood, it becomes our flesh. That's what the manna ended up becoming. So it's like inside of the inside, right? Ananei kavod sipku hagana mibachutz. The clouds of glory provided for us protection from outside. Hem balmu et ruchot hamidbar. They blocked, balmu, livlom means to block, the wild winds of the desert. Ve'yishru et hadrachim. It straightened the paths for us to know how to walk. Ve'af kipsu et habegadim kamevuar bamidrash. And it also, we had every mother's and woman's dream, we had a natural washing machine that was taking place all the time. Habe'er natna et hamayim. And then the well gave the water. Shehem atzmam enam mezinim. The water itself does not provide nutrition. Achem mesapkim et hanuzlim hachiyuniyim leha'avarat hamazon lechol evrei haguf. The Rebbe says, but what do? They provide us with the essential fluids in order for the nutrition, for the food, to find its way through all different bones, all different areas in our body. So again, the man becomes part of us. The ananei kavod is a magen misaviv. The water helps the man. Yeah, that's good. That's a good way to say it. Nachon. And the Rebbe, in his genius mastery of everything, that's always in the context of learning, says like this. You can see already where it's going. It's so beautiful. כשיהודי לומד תורה, חודר את החוכמה האלוקית. I'm sorry, שלושת העניינים הללו קיימים גם בתורה. So these three aspects exist also in Torah. יש בתורה ההיבט שהיא חודרת לפנימיות האדם ומזינה את נפשו. There's an element of Torah where it gets into it penetrates into our insides, and it literally satiates our soul. That's what? Which one is that? The man. יש בתורה כוח להגן על האדם מפני הרוחות המנשבות מבחוץ. The Torah has the koach to protect us from the wild winds that are always blowing outside. What's that? Anan. ויש בתורה כוח להגיע לכל מקום ולכל פרט. But the Torah has a way of reaching every area and every detail, like the water enabled the man to reach in every detail in every area. כשיהודי לומד תורה, חודרת החוכמה האלוקית אל תוך מוחו וליבו, ונעשית חלק ממנו. Amen, we should believe this. When we're learning Torah, the chokhmah elokit, the infinite, supernal, godly wisdom, it infiltrates into our hearts and our minds, and it becomes part of us. Just like the food that we eat, it becomes part of us. The Torah that we learn becomes part of us. The biology class that we went to, the information we absorbed there, does not become part of us. History classes, Mechila, does not become part of our essence unless it's in the context of learning l'shem shamayim Torah. And in that context, the historical context, any subject, architecture, you could say, I dream about it, I live it. It doesn't become part of you. Torah, the wisdom of the Torah, the learning, the absorbing of the Torah, it becomes who we are. It's not just another element. It becomes part of our blood. It becomes part of our flesh. Kashem she'hamazon mitmazeg im haguf. Just like food, mitmazeg. How do you say? Why would you say mitmazeg? Kind of. It means more than that. Synthesized? That's probably closer. Yeah. That it becomes synthesized with the body. Mishum kach, therefore, en Yehudi echad shaveh lechavero belimud haTorah. No one's equal when it comes to learning Torah. Yesh המסוגל ללמוד ולקלוט הרבה ובהבנה מעמיקה. There are those that can learn a lot. They could understand a lot, and with a deep level of understanding. ואילו חברו מתקשה בלימודו ואינו מבין אלא את שטחיות הדברים. And there's another person that can't really understand the depths of the matter, but they understand it in a very broad context. כי דבר שצריך להיקלט בפנימיות האדם, something that needs to be absorbed in the inner chambers of a person, תלוי ביכולת הקליטה של כל אחד ואחד, is dependent on how much a person can absorb, each person. זהו המזון שבתורה. So,
it's beautiful how the Rebbe writes Chavero, like, and it's not just another person.
Chavero.
Like, right? Like, he's always with the Achdus.
Always. So he's saying it's your chaver, but it's not necessarily means that you're going to understand it the same way. It's not going to be that you're receiving it the same way. Why? And we see this. There are people, you take two different people, one of them, and you give them the same dish. And you see that their absorption of it, their consumption, their consuming of the food is different. One can't, for whatever it is, every person's different.
Absolutely.
What's that?
Absolutely.
I mean, you can sit in the same shir with people. You could be learning the same exact thing, kivyachol, and you could be receiving two completely different dishes. That's possible. נכון? יש בתורה גם הכוח להתמודד עם כל קשיי העולם. To be able to deal with any problem in the world, you could find the help from it from the Torah. כל יהודי, ללא שום הבדל מיהו ומהי יכולת הבנתו, קשור אל התורה. Every single yid, without any difference of who they are and what their level of comprehension is connected to the Torah. ויכול למצוא בה משען ומחסה מפני כל בעיה. And every person can find within the Torah a safe place, a guarding element. מבחינה זו, התורה היא כענני הכבוד. On this level, the Torah is like the clouds of glory, protecting. היא מיישרת את הדרך, it straightens our way of life for us, ומסלקת כל מכשול והפרעה. And it removes any burdening, any disruption, anything. And it's, when you see people that their learning is mamish on, there's such an envy. You know why? What's the envy? What do they look like? What is their light that they bring into a room? What does their fragrance smell like? It just smells like I'm focused, I'm moving, I'm growing. And all the craziness of the world, it doesn't touch me. It doesn't bother me. I'm simply marching with giants with me. I have Abaya and Rava, I have the Rambam, I have the Pnei Yeshu, I have the Gra, I have the Baal Shem Tov. I just have them with me on my journey. They're living, they are living like, those guys when the plane lands and you have those guys from the runway, what are they called? But what they have, like those two orange things, right? Like it's like they when you learn a Rebbe and you learn a tzaddik, you learn a Tana, you learn a Amora, you literally feel like they're telling you they me'ashrim et haderech, and you're not lost on a foggy runway. That's what the Torah is doing for this. Is the Rebbe says what Ananei HaKavod is all about. Hadavar hashlishi sheyesh b'Torah. So the third thing that the Torah has, huzgulas hamayim sheba, is this element of water that it has. Kishem sheteva hamayim laredet mimakom gavoa limakom namuch lagia lechol makom. Like the Tanya teaches us, like the nature of water is to descend from a very high place to reach the lowest places, to reach anywhere. Kach gam haTorah yarda mirum ma'alata bimkora eloki v'yarda ad lemata mata. So too the Torah is like the water where it came. Did anything in this world ever appear from a higher place than the Torah did? Than from heaven, from Shemayim? That's the Torah too, to reach every single place. There are people that say, no, since it's so holy, you can't, it can only stay if you become that holy, then you have access to the Torah. And the Torah's Chassidus, and what the Tanya is really emphasizing in the beginning over there, is saying, the more something is higher, the more it could reach anything without ever getting touched, right? Meaning, but without ever being disconnected, because it's staying in its original element over there, right? And you have to believe in the Torah. Like, believing in the Torah is a big thing. It's not a simple thing. Literally believing in the koach of the Torah. So the Rebbe says, "Be'ofen shekol adam Yisrael yachol lelamda," in a manner that each one in Am Yisrael could learn. Ve'lisfog be'emtzauta et ma'alotea ha'acherot. And every single person in Am Yisrael can absorb within them specific inyanim of Torah because it's there to reach anyone, no matter where they're at. En Yehudi sheino yachol lilmod et Torah ulehavina al pi yecholto. So there's no Jew any Jew can learn Torah and understand it on the level that they are. I'm not talking about comparing higher to lower. We're just saying the access is for everyone. And the Rebbe so believed in that. He instilled that within every one of his Talmidim and Talmidot, that there's something in the Torah for every single person. Just bring it to them. Just bring it to them. Whatever you know, just bring it to them. There's something waiting for every single person. Just bring it to them. It's such a musar for people that always think they have to be only providing Torah on a certain high level all the time, right? It's like do you understand what I'm saying? You could say the most simple Torah, and you have no idea who needs to hear it at any given moment. Okay, so now the Rebbe is going to wrap this up, but in a way that only he could do it. So, Afal pi shehaman haya b'zchut Moshe, ha'ananim b'zchut Aaron, v'ha'be'er b'zchut Miriam. It's true. Each of these things within the schus of Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. Harei la'achar shemetu Aaron u'Miriam chazru ha'ananim v'ha'be'er b'zchuto shel Moshe Rabbeinu. So we said, Aaron dies and Miriam dies. What stopped momentarily? Right. Now, what's the difference in time between the death of Miriam and the death of Aaron? What's Aaron's yahrzeit? Hey Av. Yeah, Hey Av, I believe, is right? Sorry. Rosh Chodesh Av. The Arizal's Hey Av. Yeah. So, what is that? Be'erech, Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av. It's like 4 or 5 months there. Things stop momentarily, and then they pick up again. Why? He says, Ananim va'be'er chazru b'zchuto shel Moshe Rabbeinu. In the merit of Moshe Rabbeinu, these things came back. Why? And this, I want us to listen to these words carefully. The Rebbe would have never said this about himself. I believe the Masorah is he was always referring to his father-in-law whenever he mentioned stuff like this. But now that he's in Olam HaEmes, and we're here, I believe so strongly that this is for us to understand. This is obviously our Hiskashrus Torah. Ki Moshe kemanhig ha'am rotem atzmo lechol matala she'am zakuk la. Because the real leader, maybe they have certain qualities that they're more known for, and while others are able to supply and provide in other areas, when that is removed as well, the leader has to fill in the other things that also the people need, even if it's not exactly what he resembled. What does that mean? Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, each of them did their thing, and like you pointed out, Shoshana, it was beautiful. Each of them have their own matala, they have their own thing that they're bringing to the table. You could have said Moshe Rabbeinu could have brought all three. It wouldn't have shocked anyone. But the Chazal explained this, no? And Rashi says right there. Each of them had to bring their own thing. Beseder. But the moment that something's missing, a shvach leader says, well, okay, I just listen. I have to be myself, and this is my thing, and hopefully the way that what I'm doing will be enough for everybody. If others still need things, and someone's not doing it, a real leader says, I'm doing this now as well. I have to bring this as well. Rotem atzmo. That means you. Interesting, that name, Rotem.
It's related to harness. I mean, that's how it's used modern.
Yeah. So how would you say that? How would you say that in a full pasuk? Like how would you say that in a full translation? Rotem atzmo. What does he say over here? I wonder what the word was in Yiddish that he said. So whatever is needed, I'm there. It doesn't matter. That's a real manig. No. It's a lashon reish taf mem. It means like you were saying, to harness yourself. Meaning, whatever's doesn't matter what I'm good at or what I'm not good at. If something's needed, I'm gonna figure out a way to provide it. Lo mishaneh. That's a real leader. So he says, Zot chunato shel manhig Yisrael amiti. This is what a real leader is all about. Shehu doeg lechol tzarchei ha'am. U'me'achar shebechol Yehudi yesh nitzotz b'Moshe Rabbeinu. And since there's a spark of Moshe Rabbeinu in each of us, mikan, shekol echad ve'echad chayav la'asot leman haklal. So the Rebbe is saying, you may be thinking, I'm only talking about my father-in-law. And the Rebbe is telling us today, 29 years later, and you now may be thinking that I'm only talking about me and what made me great. But the Rebbe is saying, but we know that there's a spark of Moshe Rabbeinu in each and every one of us. So the Rebbe is still not letting us off the hook. It's unbelievable. He's saying, if you see something that's needed, you got to figure out a way that your kiyum in the world, that the way that you conduct yourself in this world, is filling the needs of Amcha Yisrael. Not on the level that it's all on you to take it on, but it's all on you to not ignore what you can do. Kasher nif'eret pirtza v'notzeret ba'aya, when there's a pirtza, when there's a pirtza means like a break in the, right? Like a, how do you say pirtza? When there's a breach and there's a problem that we have, En Adam Yisrael yachol lomar, listen, en ze iski, it's not my problem. Hachova motelet al kol Yehudi l'sayah kechol yicholto letzorchei Am Yisrael. Meaning, I think what the Rebbe is teaching us right now so strongly is that, and I'm, we always talk about this. We need a real manhig. We need a real, and of course we do. Why? Because there's so many tzarchei amcha merubim. There's so many needs that Am Yisrael has. There's so much we need. We need someone that will be able to tend to the flock and to take responsibility and be that level of greatness. And it's true. But until that happens, the Rebbe is saying, where's Moshe Rabbeinu's spark within you that allows yourself to say, I'm just waiting for that manik to come? And that is why, since Gimel Tammuz 29 years ago, there are an additional 5,000 Chabad houses that have opened. So and it's only going to grow. It shouldn't have to grow for too long. Mashiach should come. But as long as Mashiach doesn't come, these numbers are only going to be growing. Why? Because the Rebbe put something so deep into us, this nekuda of manhigut, of leadership. He instilled and instills, and it continues to instill within each and every one of us so deeply that when you see something that's needed, there's no way in the world that Hashem showed it to you, to show you, to remind you, don't take on too much. You're good at what you do. Don't worry, it's not your problem. It does. He was a pretty empowering individual.
Yeah, you have to do it too, not to be betlut, dependent.
En ze iski. We don't live in a metzius of saying this is not my. Listen, it's not my thing. Moshe Rabbeinu could have said, I think I have enough on my plate. Now, again, what this means, Lamai said that it came back in the schus of Moshe. I don't understand what this means. We're just learning the davar mitoch davar. What it means is that the Chazal are telling us that the second that Moshe Rabbeinu saw that a need wasn't met, he said, if I'm a leader, if I'm truly a leader, it's not that I can do a magic trick and figure this one out, but it's that whatever the people need, this is what I'm here for in this world. And that's not just for the tzaddikim. It's for us simple Yidden as well. When we see things that are needed, that are missing, we daven to Hashem, please enlighten me to see in myself how I could provide it. Listen, the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos makes it very clear. I think it's the healthiest balance in the world. Lo alecha melacha ligmor, ve'ata ben cholin libatel mimena. Zot omeret, you don't have to do everything, you don't have to finish everything, but you have no exemption of trying to figure out how you could play a role over here. So I know in today's day of where the talk of mental health is, Baruch Hashem, getting bigger and bigger, and even though still a lot to do in the field, and a lot of that talk in that world has to do with not overdoing it, not taking on too much bechulei. I don't think that's what the Rebbe is speaking about over here. I think the Rebbe is really saying to us, if tune into the Nakuda of Moshe Rabbeinu that's inside of you, and you'll see שיש ביכולתך לעזור לכל מי שאתה רואה שצריך משהו. That there's something in you that's able to really help. When you see what people's needs are, there's something in you that's able to help. Now, when we learn Torah from someone that has a great idea, but we don't see it in them, we have to work much harder to imagine what it looks like. But when we learn Torah from someone whose words are so close, they're one with their being in the world, it's really like we really have we have the greatest example of someone living this teaching. The greatest example of someone living this teaching. There was an interview with one of the politicians, I forget which one, that they came back from seeing the Rebbe, and they said that he was asked in the Israeli media, what impressed you the most about Rabbi Schneerson? Right? I hate when people say that. But that's what they said. Even though they weren't trying to be...
Sometimes they don't use rabbi either.
I'm giving them kav zchus right now. But they don't mean anything bad. They just, whatever, like Rabbi Schneerson. We don't say Rabbi Schneerson. It's not I don't know what that means. Rabbi Schneerson. Even saying that sounds mamash not covered. But they asked him, Ma chiyushim otcha Rav Schneerson, right? So I couldn't believe it. The person said, Shma, הבן אדם לא לקח חופשה יום אחד בחיים שלו. That is what impressed the person the most, that he didn't take 1 day vacation his whole life. That's what impressed him the most. But you know what? If you're a manhig, then someone always needs something. Someone always does need something. So that's that level of, that level of manhigus, that's Moshe Rabbeinu manhigus. Moshe Rabbeinu could have said, listen, I'm exhausted, I'm 100, because he was around 118 over here, 119, because if they were in the desert for 40 years, right, and this is the 38th year of being in the desert, and he starts his whole geschäft at 80, so of course we understand he's probably pretty tired.
He hit the rock toward the end of his life?
Yeah. So this is like a beautiful calling to us to say, even if you feel you don't have more, you have more. You have more.
If you know Aleph, teach Aleph.
Right. You have more. You have more koach than whatever you think. You have more. Why? Because Moshe Rabbeinu is in you. Moshe Rabbeinu is in me. If you ask the Rebbe, how did he do anything? He would say, what do you mean? I'm just like you. I have Moshe Rabbeinu in me as well. That's the only thing. Now, the piece on the other side of the page is basically, it's another take on. I thought we could get to it, but because we started Shir Day, we're not going to get to it. But I would highly recommend taking it on, because what this piece is showing us is how the real tzaddikim keep on sustaining you even when they're not physically in this world. Mm-hmm. So it's a very important piece. It's a very important piece for Gimel Tammuz, definitely, and in the context of our parsha with the man and the water and the ananei kavod. So I would definitely hold on to it. And today's also a very, very, very powerful day to daven for Mashiach, because no one raised the awareness of Mashiach more than the Rebbe ever in any generation. So today's a very big day to daven for the Mashiach, daven that the way that I daven for Mashiach is needed, to believe that the way that I'm crying for Geula may be the tipping point. Maybe, could very well be. And if it could be, then there's no exemption of me by saying, listen, en ze iski, I daven for other things. Can you imagine someone coming to that conclusion, saying, I daven a lot. My thing is to daven more for refuah shlema of people, or I don't know. There's no exemption for any year to be davening for Mashiach and screaming Ad Masai every single day, specifically on Gimel Tammuz, specifically on a day where thousands of Jews went to Levayas this week, and there's thousands of Jews that are screaming and crying. So, Dafka today on Gimel Tammuz, more than ever, Bezrat Hashem, are screaming and crying for Mashiach. It is our business. We should hear good news, everyone.